All right, guys, so today I want to talk about depression, okay? And this is a very, I guess, subjective topic, for a lot of people, because a lot of people, we're all depressed, for different reasons. We all get depressed for different reasons, okay? And, there was a time in my life where I was very depressed myself, and I'll get to that in this video somewhere. But first I want to talk about what's at the core, of depression, what you need to know. And before I get into that, I want to let you guys know, this is not an idea I came about by myself. Obviously, this is something I directly learned from Tony Robbins, and a lot of the things I teach in my videos are things that I learned from either Tony Robbins or through books, and some of it are from just my own life experience. And so I don't want to take any of the credit for any of these things. I'm just bringing it to you guys, because these are things that have helped me in a big way in my life. And so I'm just bringing it over to you guys, And so I want to talk about what it is that Tony talks about as at the core. It's at the meat of depression, okay? It's literally in the center of it, and exactly what it is and why people get depressed, okay? So there's a thing called a blueprint, okay? And everyone has a blueprint, whether they realize it or not. We all have a blueprint, which means a blueprint is basically a vision of how you think your life should be at this point right now, okay? So your blueprint is basically that. That's exactly it. How you think your life should be right now, okay? And then your reality. So these are the two things you need to understand for this video to understand where I'm going with this, okay? So the blueprint is one, which is the vision of where you want your life to be right now, okay? And then your reality is the other one, which is very simple. Your reality is your reality, how your life is actually right now, okay? So what he says is that the thing that causes depression is the gap between these two, okay? So if your blueprint is all the way up here and your reality is here, you're gonna feel a lot of emotional pain and you're gonna be depressed, okay? Let me give you a couple of examples so you understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about before we get to the next part. So let's say, for example, let's use a guy, let's say his name is John. Let's use a character named John. He's living his life, okay? And he lives maybe, let's say he lives with, a couple of roommates, and he's got, good friendships, he's got a good career, one that he's really happy with. Everything's going well for this guy, let's say, for example. But he's missing a significant other in his life, okay? He's missing a serious girlfriend or a wife, okay? Or maybe even kids. Let's say this guy is 40 years old. Let's say he's a 40-year-old guy. So he's missing a wife, he's missing kids, and some of you might be like, oh, what's the big deal? But let's say, for example, this John, his blueprint or his vision for his life says that he really wanted to be married with kids at this point in his life, okay? And he wanted to have that deep connection with somebody, and he doesn't have a girlfriend or anything close to it. But every other aspect of his life is going excellent, okay? Everything else, if you look at it objectively, other people will be like, wow, this guy lives an amazing life, okay? But he is depressed because that thing that he so badly wants is just simply not, okay? It's just not happening for him, okay? So that's a very basic example. I'm gonna give you a few more examples, then we're gonna go to the next part, which is the more important part of this video, so you really understand what this is about, how you can cure yourself of your depression. Yeah, I said it, cure yourself of your depression if you really wanted to, okay? So let's use another character. Let's call this guy Bob. I'm using very generic, normal names, I know. So let's call this guy Bob, maybe, we can call him Jack, it doesn't matter. All right, let's call him Bob, because Jack is my name. So let's call this guy Bob, and let's say this guy, again, maybe this guy is making millions of dollars. He's very successful, okay? And he's got a wife, he's got a girlfriend, he's got kids, so he's like the opposite of the other guy, okay? But this guy is also depressed. What's happening here? Why is this guy depressed? This guy's blueprint, or this vision, whether it be conscious or unconscious in his mind, is a life full of freedom, where he gets to travel the world and do whatever he wants. And now with, he's got millions of dollars, but he's also got all these strict obligations of like, he has to come through for these people. He has to be there for these people. He's so obliged to continue with his career, and a lot of people count on him, including his family, and maybe his kids, like he can't go on vacation because of his kids or whatever else it may be. He's not able to actually do what he wants to do or what he truly desires in his life, and his blueprint or his vision is kind of always nagging at him to do. So he can't live in this way. So he's depressed. Everyone else looks at his life and like, wow, perfect family, the guy's wealthy, everything looks perfect. The guy's depressed. Okay, let's run through a couple more examples now. We're going to switch up the kind of situations of these people. Now let's use Jeff, okay? Now you meet this Jeff character. He's got a loving relationship. He's got wonderful friends, and this guy seems like he's really truly happy when you're talking to him, but this guy has a deep desire for a lifestyle of freedom and abundance, and he doesn't have that much money. Let's say, for example, okay, he doesn't have that much money. He's broke. Let's call him. Okay, this guy's broke. He doesn't have the money, but everything else in his life is going, A-okay. It's perfect, excellent, okay? Everything's excellent from an outsider's perspective, besides for he's living paycheck to paycheck, let's call it. And this guy just he wants to live this lifestyle where he can treat his family and take them to restaurants and take them to vacations and live in a nice home. And he just can't do it, and it just pains him so much on the inside. He has everything else going for him, but he's missing this one aspect of his life, and it's the one aspect that he desires and wants more than anything else. It's his number one priority. It's a blueprint. It's the vision he has of his life, is that I should be able to provide for my family. I should be able to take them to vacations, buy nice things for them, whatever it may be. And so this guy feels a very strong depression as well, okay? Because that's his blueprint. Okay, so now you're getting more where I'm going with this, okay? The blueprint is your blueprint of life, how you want it to be or how you vision it, is that pull you have towards what's really most important for you in your life. Not what other people tell you what should be most important for you in your life. What actually is most important for you in your life. So I want you guys to really ponder and think about this. What's most important for you in your life? Pause the video if you have to. Really, really think about it. Above anything else, what is in your blueprint? What is your vision of life? How do you see your life? Or how do you want your life to be as compared to what your life actually is? Okay, I want you to just take some time to think about that. We talked about three different examples. We talked about the reality of the people's situation, and then their blueprint of how they thought life should, let's call it, be right now for them. It should be this way. And so that's what's causing that pain. My life is not the way that it should be, okay? Now bear with me here, okay? Because I'm trying to explain this in a video that's gonna be less than 30 minutes. Tony talks about this maybe for, 20 hours in a seminar, okay? So I'm trying to bring this all to you and recap this all to you so you guys can get a very deep understanding of what's going on here, okay? And so let's say you're this guy and now maybe you repause the video and now you're back and like, okay, Jack, I'm back now. I know what my blueprint is and I know how different my reality is from my blueprint. I'm back, I'm ready. What the hell should I do? How do I feel better? That's a great question. And we're gonna get into that right here in a second. But first I want you to maybe question your blueprint. Why, am I sure this is the blueprint that I want? Or is this a blueprint that maybe somebody else kind of forced onto me or the media kind of forced onto me, or this is the blueprint that I think that is proper in the societal norms or whatever it may be. So make that decision on your own, okay? So think about that, really think about that. Is this the blueprint that I truly, deeply want my life to look like? Is this what's most important for me? Okay? And you can pause the video again if you have to do that. So pause the video again if you have to do that, and then now let's get to the next part. So how do I fix this is the question. How do I stop, feeling depressed about your entire life, or maybe a certain aspect of your life that doesn't match, your reality is not matching your blueprint? There's too much of a gap, okay? It's just too much. The gap is too much. So there's two options, okay? There's two options. Option one is to do everything in your power and to use this as fuel to try to attain this blueprint, okay? So you try to go towards the blueprint. Let's say your blueprint is a healthy, you saw yourself in a healthy kind of way, you have a healthy lifestyle, and your blueprint is, you're this fit guy, you're strong, 160 pounds, let's say, just strong muscle, 180 pounds, whatever your goal is. And the reality of your situation is you're 300 pounds, okay? And this is causing you a lot of emotional pain and depression. Then option one would be to lose the weight, okay? But this option is you're gonna probably feel depressed for a lot of the way down until you're actually losing the weight and you're down to that weight you want to be. So option one essentially is to bring your reality closer to your blueprint by taking logical and smart steps towards it, let's call it, okay? So you're moving towards that blueprint and you're making strides towards that blueprint, okay? So that's option one. And I use the weight example. Any example is fine, okay? So that's option one, and that's the harder option. Option one is difficult sometimes, depending on how lavish your blueprint is. Because some of us have these crazy blueprints where we expect all these wild things. And we want everything in our lives to be perfect, everything, perfect, this, that. I want everything to line up, It's gonna be hard to choose option one in that case, okay? And it's gonna cause you a lot of pain, and even, when you get to that, perfect kind of state where you wanna be, or that perfect kind of life that you wanna create, you might still find yourself reaching for the next bar, oh, well, now I need this, or now I need that, which is gonna bring more depression and anxiety into your life, okay? Or, okay, you can choose option number two, okay? Option number two is to adjust your blueprint to match the conditions of your life, of your reality. Okay, so let me give you a quick example of this. maybe I'll give you multiple examples of these so you really understand what I'm trying to talk about here. So let's say someone's blueprint, okay, is to travel the world and live free in a way where they're not obligated to anything and they want to just be free, okay? But their life conditions right now cause them to be in quarantine, okay? Perfect timing. Their life conditions cause them to be in quarantine, in lockdown mode, okay? All right, so like your life conditions have you in this apartment lockdown, quarantine mode, and this guy's blueprint is like himself or herself traveling the world, being free, not being obligated to anything, just kind of, just living life. So what they would have to do is to adjust that blueprint, let go of that blueprint, shove it to the side, and instead exchange that blueprint for just being grateful for anything that's in their life. For example, being grateful for being healthy, living in an apartment, okay? Communicating with friends. And if you change that to your blueprint, those are things you already have. So this changes everything, okay? This changes everything. So what you're doing when you're doing this is essentially you're getting rid of expectations, okay? Your expectations, your blueprint is your expectations. I'm actually in the midst of writing a book, and it's going to be titled The Dangers of Expectations, because expectations can drive you crazy. Okay, expectations can drive you crazy and make your current life harder than it needs to be, and more depressive than it needs to be. Okay, these expectations, okay, and this like reaching of like things that you don't have right now in your life that you want, and the constant reaching is essentially a focus on what you're lacking. Okay, when you're reaching for something, it means you're trying to bring something into your life that you don't already have. So what option 2 is doing is turning that focus this way and appreciating everything that you actually already do have in your life. Appreciating and being grateful for everything you actually do have in your life and everything you have already manifested in your life, okay? And once you change this, there's a little quote I'd like to share with you from Tony Robbins. He says, trade your expectations for appreciations and your whole life will change. When I first read that quote, I was confused by it. I was like, oh, it sounds cool, but I don't really get it. But really think about that. Trade your expectations, those things that you're reaching out for and striving for appreciations, the things you already have. And those things you already have can be as simple as your arms, okay? Your hands, your eyes, your family, your friends, your internet, okay? That's simple. Your computer. Whatever it may be that you're grateful for, be appreciative of the things you already have in your life, okay? And this is very important for an overall sense of fulfillment, for your happiness, for your well-being. These are very deep things that are gonna, change your internal state to where it should really be, where you want it to be, where you're not depressed. Your default, state is happiness and joy and gratitude, okay? For even when you're in difficult situations and you're dealing with emotional turbulence or emotional stress, you can still come back to the gratitude and the appreciation whenever you want, whenever you decide to focus on it. You're like, bam, I'm gonna focus on it, and that's what I'm gonna be grateful for. Because, you know, I've said this in a previous video, and I think it's worth mentioning again. You know, if you ask most people, they wouldn't sell their arms and their legs. Would you sell your arms and your legs for $1 billion? I would imagine for most people, the answer is going to be a firm absolutely not. Okay? So when you say that, when you consciously decide that you would not sell your legs for $1 billion, you would not sell your legs. Okay? Your legs, cut them off, $1 billion. If you wouldn't sell your legs for $1 billion, you have just valued yourself as a billionaire, okay? You have just literally told yourself that you are worth billions, because I wouldn't sell my legs for billions. I don't care what the amount is, I'm not selling it. So you're a priceless asset in yourself, okay? So bringing the focus and the gratitude and the appreciation towards that, especially during rough times, to kind of bring yourself back towards that, is, you know, one of the most important things you can do for your mental state. So this is something you always want to be reminded of and keep on the forefront of your mind, you know, and you know, it's not going to always stay in the forefront of your mind. You're going to get lost in the distractions and some of the bullshit in life, and it's going to take you this way and it's going to take you that way. You know, things are going to happen. You're going to go that way, you're going to go this way, right? Things are going to happen that are going to, you know, emotionally catch you off guard. You know, they're going to catch you off guard, and you're going to feel very emotionally unstable. Maybe you're going to be depressed or anxious or whatever it may be. But those are the most important times where you can actually think about these things, like, and come back to gratitude and make gratitude your home. Okay, make gratitude your home. So you live inside the home of gratitude. That's your default place of living. And, you know, and I think that's the most important thing in life is to be in a place of gratitude. Be grateful for what you do have in your life, and realize that everything else that you're actually reaching for, don't reach too hard. Don't focus too much on reaching, because when you do, it's going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause depression, because when you're focusing on reaching and grabbing something that you don't have, the keywords at the end of that sentence, don't have, is you're focusing on the lack. You're focusing on the things you're expecting from the future, or things you're expecting from your life, and you're being ignorant in that moment of the things that you do have in your life and the things you should be grateful for already, and all the happiness that you have within you, you know, as a human. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up this video right here. If you guys have any, you know, depression stories or anxiety stories, you can share that, you know, down below. And I guess I was actually gonna tell you guys about, you know, that time in my life when I was depressed. I guess I'll quickly, you know, go through that right now. I won't spend too much time on it, but I'll quickly, again, kind of a little bonus for you guys, you know, that stuck around here, just so you can maybe learn from some of the things, you know, this depressive state that I went through in my own life, you know. And I remember when it was exactly. I was in Florida, you know. I was living in Florida with my cousin, and I don't know, like, I thought that, you know, this might be a bit of a long story. Actually, it's probably gonna take like 5 or 10 minutes, so bear with me here, but it's quite interesting. So if you stuck out this far, trust me, you're gonna want to stick around to hear this one. So I first moved to Florida with my father when I was about, I want to say I was about 18 years old, okay? And I'll try to move through the story quite quickly. I moved with my father to Florida when I was 18, and I met my first, you know, girlfriend there. And it was like a brand new start for me. It was an amazing moment in my life, and I was so happy at that time in my life. You know, we spent, I think it was about 1.5 years or something like that in Florida. And then, long story short, my dad wanted to, like, he had a situation where we had to move back to New York, okay? And this was heart-wrenching for me, because I loved Florida. I was like, wow, Florida's so cool. It's so much better than New York, and also I had my new girlfriend there, and everything was, making sense, and it was all there, right? I was in a very happy place in my life. And so when he first told me we had to go back to New York, I was like, God, this is terrible. So I went, so obviously, being 18 years old, I didn't have enough money to stay in Florida, but I made a promise to myself that I would make it back, and I would do anything in my power to do that. And that's exactly what I did. When I got back to New York, I worked at a restaurant called TGIF Fridays. I was a waiter there for about 3 or 4 years until I finally saved up enough money to move to Florida. And so when I moved there, I moved to Florida, and it was like 3 or 4 years, while I was in New York. Basically, I didn't do much when I was in New York. I, for the most part, was just working and saving money. That was just the gist of what I was doing. I didn't really care about anything else. And my plan was to buy an apartment in Florida. So I'd saved like $50,000, and I was gonna buy an apartment in Florida. And thankfully, my dad kind of talked me out of that. He was like, dude, don't buy the apartment. Just go rent first. See how you like it, because you know what? Like, the first time around, you had a lot of fun, but maybe when you go back there, it might not be the same. Okay, you might not feel the same way. He said, rent the apartment first. Don't buy it. I reluctantly said, okay. I was so set on buying it, but I'm happy I didn't end up buying it. And I said, okay, we'll rent first and we'll take it from there. So I go to Florida, and he was right. It wasn't the same as I remembered. It wasn't the same as I remembered. And, my girlfriend at that time, we broke up while I was in New York. She was my ex-girlfriend, when I moved back. And at that time, I had thought in my mind, oh, maybe there's a chance that we can get back together, okay? Maybe there's a chance, but that's not why I moved to Florida. I moved to Florida because I loved Florida. And that's the main reason why I moved there. But then when I went back and we were living with my cousin, I was just like, I felt like deep feelings of loneliness. And it was a very difficult time, in my life, that next year and a half, where, I had a couple of panic attacks, and, my cousin was kind of worried for me. He was like, whoa, he was like, what's going on, man? And I was just like, I don't know what's happening, man. Something just doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is. Like, it was just like, I felt like I was on pause. I felt like my life was at a standstill. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I dropped out of college, after just like 1 year. I went to 1 year of college. I dropped out. I didn't have, a major in anything. I didn't have, a strong skill at anything at this point. And I was working as a waiter at Applebee's at that time in Florida. And it was just like a time in my life where I had to quit my job like after a month because it just wasn't paying enough. I wasn't making enough money. So I was like, this is not even worth it. Why am I working here? This doesn't make any sense. So my $50,000 that I saved and I moved to Florida with, fast forward like a year, we're down to like $6,000 or $7,000. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be broke soon. Not only am I gonna be broke soon, I didn't know how I was gonna make more money, or I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was just very confused, and everything just kind of came down at me at once. And I was just lost, I wanna call it. I was very lost in a place where I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was just a very, very difficult time. And I remember, I called my grandma at that time, and I was like talking to her on the phone, and I was like, hey, like, how's it going? And that's something I'd never done before. It was just like, because I wanted to talk to a human. Okay, I just wanted to talk to anybody, and I know she was always available because she would call me all the time, like, oh, let me just call my grandma. She was like a very easy option for me to fall back on because she was always there, So I called her, and she was like surprised, like, oh, what are you calling me for? Because I never really, reached out to her. She would always be the one calling, right? So I was just like, oh, yeah, I just want to see how's it going and stuff, and like, just a very, I won't get into the details, but it was a very, very difficult time in my life. It lasted probably, I want to say like a year or two, where it was just like, I was just, deep, deep feelings of emptiness and loneliness all the time throughout that year or two. And I literally just thought I was going to die. not that I was gonna, kill myself or anything. I'm not getting to that extent, but I thought I was just gonna die because I just didn't feel well, emotionally, physically. I was just like, just ready to give up. Like I didn't know what was going on. I was so confused. I didn't understand emotions, or I didn't have emotional intelligence or anything like that. Like I have more so of today. So I was just like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, and I can't see out of this. And looking back on it now, I realize that it's more so because of that blueprint that I had. My reality in that situation was that I was lost. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything to look forward to. I just had a couple of friends there, not many, just like a couple of friends, and it was just tough. It was a very difficult time for me, and it was just really hard. And my blueprint at that time was like, I wanted to own an apartment in Florida. I wanted to actually have a career, a career path going, and I wanted to, have a lifestyle that I really enjoyed. Like I wanted to have friends, I wanted to have a girlfriend at that time. And now I don't really care so much about that. I've changed my blueprints regarding that. But at that time, that was my exact blueprint, and I had none of those things. So it was very difficult, to be happy under those circumstances. So I had to learn a lot. I had to change my blueprints, and I had to do a lot of, self-development work. As you guys know, that follow my channel. I read a lot of books. I went to Tony Robbins seminars. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on self-development, things like that. And I'm very fascinated with the brain and psychology and all these kind of things. And, so these are the kind of things that have helped me, in my life. And that's why I'm bringing it to you guys, and that's why I want to help you guys and give you guys answers that maybe I was looking for, when I was younger. And yeah, that's basically the story. And everyone's depression is going to be a little bit different, and everyone's going to be depressed for different reasons, right? Like we talked about in this video. But figure that out, because that's your way out. You're going to figure out, how to close the gap, whether it be this is your reality, this is your blueprint, and you bring your reality more towards it, or you bring your blueprint here, or you can also meet somewhere in the middle. Lower your expectations a little bit, and then also work to get towards where you want to go. You want to close that gap one way or the other, okay? And don't drive yourself crazy with it. Realize that depression is again, it's a temporary thing. You're not going to be depressed forever, especially once you realize why you're depressed, and once you have those answers and you're more aware of everything, you're going to feel a lot better just as is. So I hope this video helped you guys, and if you guys have any stories or you need any advice on anything at all, like I said, drop a comment down below. I'd be happy to help you out, whether it be helping you out with your specific situation, or you have a story, any story at all that's revolving around this topic, depression, anxiety, whatever you want to share, would be great. And if you made it this far, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.